Robbie here, and we're about to go live on a podcast. Now, I get asked a lot about dealing with scale and growth and the chaos of it and leveraging and outsourcing, and that's probably going to be the greater theme of this episode, so I think you'll get a lot out of it. So this podcast is called How Did You? It's generally for property beginners, although I guess we'll talk about business and my journey as well. Now, the host of this podcast, her first name is Lenka. Now, you have to bear with me one sec. Lenka, say your surname again, and I'm going to try and do this.
Right, I'm looking forward to this. Jęczowa Bednarikowa.
Yeah. Say it again.
Jęczowa Bednarikowa.
Jęczowa Bednarikowa.
Way! You nailed it.
Lenka is her name. Yeah, she's got a beast of a surname. Here she is. Here we are, look.
Hi,
so there she is, and here I am. So yeah, Lenka, I'm all yours. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you.
The show is yours.
So yeah, that's wonderful. So now thank you very much for this lovely introduction. So we have, okay, so now let's start my show. So hi everybody, and welcome to How Did You Show. Today I have a very special guest with me. He is an author, public speaker, entrepreneur, mentor, podcaster, father of two, and a property investor. Very well known within the property and a property training industry, and as a co-founder of Progressive Property and Unlimited Success, the one and only Rob Moore. So hi Rob again, back to you.
Hello.
Right, so yeah, it's really exciting having you on the show today. So first, how are you? Tell us a little bit, how are you today? Are you okay? How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, you know, cracking on, trying to balance spending more time with my kids now that the lockdown's a bit more normalized, and I maybe don't have to hustle so much, because you know, for a while there we had a lot of work that we had to get done to have the great pivot that hopefully most people managed to figure out. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. I'm glad you have a good day. Wonderful. So, Rob, again, as I said, thank you so much again for coming on the show today. So I would think that a lot of my listeners do know who Rob Moore is. Can we start, like, for those who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about who is Rob Moore?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur, and I have some training companies. Progressive Property is the UK's largest property training company, to my knowledge anyway. It certainly was a few years ago when we were measuring turnover, a number of people trained up, etc. Like you said, I have a podcast called The Disruptive Entrepreneur, which has done pretty well. We're on about episode 530 now.
Amazing.
I've written quite a lot of books: Money, Start Now, Get Perfect Later, Life Leverage, I'm Worth More, Routine Equals Results. I'm a property investor, so I have quite a lot of properties with my business partner, Mark. We're doing 100 unit conversion right now, and another one that'll probably be for 35, 40 units. It depends on planning. Them two are about 120,000 square foot. We've got a letting agency that manages 800 odd properties. Really what my mission is in life is to help as many people as possible get a better financial education, to help them start and scale their businesses. Have a foundation called the Rob Moore Foundation. And you know, I'm pretty active on social media. I think most people know that. And that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. You have a very busy bee. So that's why I have the question for you today would be like, the main question of the podcast is basically, how did you cope with the volume of tasks to do when you started to scale, and how do you do it until now? And the reason is because, as we said, you are an author of multiple books, you're running multiple companies, you are very busy. As who follows you, we know how busy you are, and you are also father of two. So I thought that you might you are helping a lot others with, you know, with this topic, but I thought you might be able to help. You might be able to tell us a little bit more on this topic, so we can all learn from you how to actually do it. How do you do it? Because it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So this is obviously a big question and a big answer. So let me try and go deep for you, because I don't like to just scratch the surface.
Okay.
So how do you get a lot done? How do you manage a lot of tasks and being very busy and productive and overwhelmed and entrepreneurial?
Mm.
So I think the first thing is to make sure that you are in a venture that you have passion and enthusiasm for. I've spent 2.5 hours on the phone today with two different people trying to fix a bit of a conflict. Now, if that was between two yoga instructors who'd pissed each other off, I couldn't be bothered to do that, and I just would want to avoid it because I'm not into yoga. But because I love business and entrepreneurship and what I do, I'm prepared to ruck in and have difficult conversations and try and come to resolutions with difficult challenges. Because no one will get a lot done in something that they're not really that keen or passionate or interested in. So that's step one. Step two then is to know your strengths and weaknesses and in-source your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. So for me, I suppose some of my strengths would be to communicate the vision, to maybe create ideas and training, that I can take to market. Probably pretty good at getting people enthusiastic and excited about that vision. Probably pretty good at creating a direction and a momentum and a velocity for people. Not good at the practicalities, the contracts, the legals, the organization, the finishing of those things that I start. Pretty good at creating chaos, not that good at creating order. So my job, therefore, then is to do the starting and the ideation and the creation and the vision and the strategy, which for me now doesn't take a huge amount of time because I've got 15 years of practice at it and I can come up with ideas pretty quickly, and I've got some market intuition and I've got some client intuition, which means I can make decisions quicker. And then when it comes to the tactical, the practical and the operational, finding good people to do that. Now I have good people now. We had 95 staff before the lockdown in 3 of our companies that are kind of linked together in one building. Obviously many are furloughed now, but we still have those people. I have a VA and a PA, and I have a brand manager and a social media manager, but I still fill my time with lots of tasks. So people could say to me, well, it's all right for you, Rob, you've got a lot of people that can help you, but I created that by creating a volume of work towards my mission. Now, if you have a massive volume of work of something that's not towards your mission or vision that you hate to do, you're just going to feel overwhelmed and stressed. If you have quite a high volume of work of something you love to do, you're going to feel excited. Like, I've got loads of work to do today, but I'm really excited about it. I do get excited if I've got a busy day lined up because I love to do what I do. So for those that are starting out, that maybe don't have 95 staff and processes and systems and software and experience and people and team, you have to build that up bit by bit. So you hire a VA to do this task, this admin task, and check your social media messages, get all of your receipts together, to put your books together for your accountant, to do your management accounts, to do your tracking and some of your KPIs, and manage your diary and manage your travel and your expenses and affairs. And those bits can be picked off by a VA, a PA for, £15 an hour or less sometimes. And to be able to do that, to be able to know what tasks to outsource and what tasks to insource, you need to know what your key result areas and your income generating tasks are. Mm-hmm. So key result areas are the areas that you dedicate to your mission that make the biggest difference towards fulfilling that mission. So for me, training trainers to train trainers, creating a vision and a strategy, new ideas and concepts for marketplaces, new businesses and partnerships and joint ventures, my own development of my own personal brand. They're all key result areas. Some of them are also income generating tasks. Now, income generating tasks would be sales calls, marketing campaigns, getting mentoring clients, selling books, monetizing my social media with my supporters and my stars, running courses and commercializing them. So when you're clear on your key result areas, you know what to focus on of highest priority. And then when you're clear on your income generating tasks, then you know where to spend your time to generate the maximum amount of revenue. Now, what most people are doing, about 20% of their time is on income generating tasks. They just don't understand that, because no two tasks have the same value of time. And people think, oh, well, I'll do this first and this second and this third. But in reality, the first task could make you 10 or 15 grand that day or that week. the second and third and fourth task could combine, make you nothing. So you've got to know how to prioritize your task in terms of key result areas and income generating tasks. Now, I wrote a book called Routine Equals Results. So the next thing is compartmentalizing your diary. And from when you get up to when you go to bed, knowing exactly what you've got to do in your day. Because entrepreneurs are often freedom seekers. We don't want to be told what to do and when to do it. And the reason that we start our own business is so that we don't have accountability to a boss. We don't get told what to do. We don't have to clock in here and clock out here and that, blah, blah, blah. But the paradoxical downside of that is you have all this time in the day and you're lost. You're bouncing around. You don't know what to do with yourself. You're not focused. You don't have accountability from someone, etc. So about 6 years ago, I started to test having more of a routine. I tested when to get up, when to go to bed, when to do my calls, when to do my meetings, when to do my social media, when to do my content, when to do my strategy, when to do my admin, blah, 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 blah. When my energy was high and low, when, my buzz off my caffeine and then the come down off the caffeine, what kind of caffeine I should have and not have, how many coffees I should have and not have, what I should put in before and after my coffee and blah. And I did probably 3 to 6 months of testing. And then I created a diary structure, which went from about 5:30 a.m. Till about 9 p.m., which is when I went to bed. Now, when the lockdown happened, I was getting up earlier and earlier, and I shift that routine every 3 to 6 months. But the key thing is, by 8 o'clock, I've done most of my key result area tasks because that's all booked in the diary. Social media at the same time. These lives I do at the same time, and I have this routine. So let's say, do you know what? I can't really be asked to do a live stream today. Well, I know I had the appointment booked with you, Lenka, at 3 o'clock. So it's done. It's accountable. I can't let you down. Otherwise, I've let you down, and that's bad. So when you've got diary appointments put in ahead of time of tasks that you've agreed to do, then you're accountable to them. So then you have to learn to let go. And I have this saying, you have to let go to grow. And what a lot of people have fear is, well, if I give this job to someone, they're not going to do it very well. They're going to let me down, or I can't afford to pay them yet, or they're going to make, they're going to put my brand into disrepute because they're representing me, but they might mess it up, or I've got to train them, or I don't want to manage people, or I don't want the responsibility, or I haven't got time to manage people. I don't want to hire someone, have to train them and manage them and create systems and do their job and do my job. Now, this is one of the great entrepreneurial paradoxes, whereby if you don't let go, you won't grow. But when you let go, you have growing pains. That's natural. So when you let go, I've had loads of people set up in competition. I've had trainers leave and set up in competition. I've invested time and money into someone and they've left. I've also hired people and not trained them well enough. And I've not trusted them well enough to do the job, or I've not hired the right person. But if you want to go from where you are to being leveraged, then that's the journey you have to go through. Now, here's the irony. You will be way busier with 3 staff than you will with 300. Way busier with 3 than 300, and people don't get it. And the reason is, when you have 3, you're probably managing them all yourself. When you have 300, you manage one person who manages 10, who manages 15, who manages 50, who manages 100. So you're way busier in those earlier stages, because in the early stages, you're doing your job, you're teaching them their job, you're trying to find them and recruit them and train them and onboard them, and then when they mess up the job, you're doing their job as well. But that chaos ends when you get your first PA, or operations manager, or head of marketing, or MD, when they can then manage people. So I manage way less people than my MD. I manage way less people than my PA. In fact, I can't even really manage myself, to be honest. They have to manage me. But we have to go through this chaos and this growth. Now, when Mark and I were doing this 15 years ago, there was Your Man in India, that website, which was for outsourcing, but that had got really busy because of Tim Ferriss promoting it in 4-Hour Work Week. So we kind of just missed that boat. And there wasn't really many other VA websites. I don't think Fiverr.com was as big then. I don't think Online Jobs PH was about then. I don't think you could find these local VAs. Like if you Google virtual assistant Peterborough, there's loads of them. There's a lady called Miss Moneypenny, and she's your like virtual assistant, and she'll do jobs for you here and there. None of that really existed when we were starting out. You had to hire people. So Mark and I hired my mum and Mark's mum first and second, and we got them to help us, and they took a lower salary, and they helped us for love, to support us, to get us over that initial bridge. Because, like I said, once you've got 2 or 3 staff, you should be able to, you should be less busy than, just you doing everything. But once you've got 300, you'll be less busy than managing 3. But it's a mindset. And you should never be too busy to work on your key result areas and your income generating tasks. Now, entrepreneurs, if you're like me, we get a bit of a thrill and a buzz out of getting a lot done. And sometimes my default will always be to hustle. I've retired loads of times. I've traveled the world. I've taken my son to his golf competitions from 5, 6, 7 years old. Virtually did no work for 2 or 3 years, when I wrote Life Leverage, and then I've retired and semi-retired, and then come out of retirement, semi-retired, and come out of retirement, blah, 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 blah. And I worked as hard as I ever worked in the lockdown, but now I really have not got that much work to do. I've only really got about one appointment a day. But I like that freedom. I hustle when I want to hustle, and then I kind of kick back when I want to kick back. I found out that retirement was pretty boring because I've tried it a lot of times. I found out that actually I need to do some work. I need to have some meaning and some purpose and some value. I just need to be good at managing my own routine. Well, in fact, my PA manages my routine now, such that I don't get myself overwhelmed. So there you go. There's some thoughts there on managing and outsourcing and leveraging and scaling up.
That's fantastic. And it's like you had the really great points there. And I'm just really interested in when you said that every 6 months, roughly, you shift your routines a little bit. Why is that? Why would you change your routines? Do you have a reason?
Yeah, because the world changes. So with the lockdown, if you don't change your routine in your lockdown, you're working on an old model. So one of the things I did in the lockdown is I had more to do in less time. So I got up earlier. I got up at 2:15 yesterday morning. I was getting up at 3 o'clock and 3:15 and 3:30 because we created 9 new online courses in about 9 weeks. I haven't created 9 online courses in 9 years, but we did that so quickly because the lockdown instilled some pretty big fear in us, because we had to cancel about 3 months of events, and that might be more. That's probably £6 or £7 million worth of revenue just from those training companies for us. Mm. So that was a clear and present threat to our companies. So I changed my routine and I loaded up a lot of the work up front early. Because by the way, at 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m., there's no distractions, there's no interruptions, there's no one walking in your home office, there's no kids up, that even the dog's asleep, there's no social media messages, there's no distraction. But also things change over time. I sometimes think, I want to be a bit more busy. I want to launch a new business. I want to write a new book. And then I sometimes think I need a bit of time to myself. I want some freedom. I want to do more social media. If Facebook come to me and give me a new feature, they've been giving me lots of new features like stars and supporters. I think I'm going to be either the world's first or one of the world's first to test the new paid for live stream feature on Facebook. I was one of the first 20 in the world to test the stars feature. I want freedom to be able to do those things, when those opportunities arise. So, I found that my ideal time for coffee was 5:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. Then I found actually my second coffee was better at 10 a.m. So I brought that early. I used to batch all my calls in the morning because I had better energy then, but now I batch all my calls when I go for a walk. I'll go on a 2 or 3 hour walk, and I usually do my walks in the afternoon. And they don't, by the way, I don't always wake up and go, oh, my routine needs to change. It often evolves over time. Also depends on other people's needs for you. So for example, I'd love to have meetings at 6 a.m. on Zoom, but I can't because my staff won't do that. So I have to have Zoom meetings at 9, 9:30, 10. It's not ideal for me, but it's better than nothing. So that's kind of like dictated upon me, but I'll do my workout at the same time, or I was doing the Zooms at home, and now I'll do the Zooms with no video on a walk. So now I can get that leverage, or I'll do it while I'm working out. So the world moves, you move, you change, you get more effective, more productive, more efficient. And you should always look at your routine. And I mean, it sounds easy, a routine, but it's not easy because your habits kind of make you want to do something else. You get overwhelmed, you procrastinate, you don't have discipline. And actually, you haven't actually figured out what's best to do and when. Like if you're in property, there'd be a better time when you should batch viewings. There'd be a good time to do viewings and not a good time to do viewings. Like I said, I'm a fan of doing calls at the same time because you can build that momentum. And if you've got them booked every 15 minutes, each one doesn't last half an hour because you've got it booked every 15 minutes. So I did 24 calls on Sunday. The longest one was 16 minutes and the shortest one was 8 minutes. And there were 15-minute calls. And I just did them all on a 3-hour walk.
Wow.
So since this lockdown, because you've been locked in your house and they let you go out once, if I could go out once, I'm going out for 3 hours.
Hmm.
because I'm going to make the most of it.
Nice.
So I've been going on these really long walks, and they've been very good for my health and fitness. And then I can batch all my calls at the same time. So, the world changes, you change, your routines and habits change. And like I said, if you read my book, Routine Equals Results, that will help you. One thing I've not been very good at is key life areas. So key life areas are, your health, your well-being, your gym, your family, and the things that are most important to you in your life. And entrepreneurs can often end up putting those to the back burner unconsciously. Often we don't mean to. It's just we get busy and we can always find more to do. So key life areas are really important, like putting the gym time in and putting some you time in and some family time in. That's vital for you to feel holistic and balanced. So routine equals results helps you batch those into.
Great, fantastic. You know that, Rob, this is actually from you. I've been when I start following you, and I read some of your books. I started to learn about that topic, that you need to let go in order to grow. And I've been watching other entrepreneurs as well, and there's some people who just starting out and they're already leveraging and outsourcing, and then you also have some people who are already in a business for quite a long period of time, and they're still not leveraging and outsourcing because they are scared, as you said, they're scared that somebody's not going to be able to do their job properly, or they're not going to do it as well as them, etc., etc. All those things you said. So it's just very interesting that would you think that it's in a mindset? Do you need to change something in your mindset to just start trusting, or what would you why do you think that some people are just genuinely scared to start outsourcing?
Yeah, I think there's practical and mental. So the practical is, have you got good onboarding? Probably not if you've never done it before. For me, onboarding was, there's your computer, get the fuck on with it. But that's not onboarding, apparently. And when you've been in a corporate, onboarding is, you have a tour with the HR manager for a day or 2 days, and you shadow various members of the team and you learn the business. I was told by my MD, for the first 2 weeks of someone coming in their full onboarding process, you can't go and speak to the staff member, you can't get them to do jobs for you. And I'm like, I've got 1 million jobs for them to do. So there's onboarding, there's a really good job description, there's really good key result areas. There's them having all the resources they need to do their job. There's good ongoing training and development. All of these things, big corporates get it because they've had to do it, because they've built organizations, but entrepreneurs often don't get all of that. So that's the practical element. Hiring the right person, good recruitment, good job ads. Like I said, good job description, but for the recruiter. And sifting through and having good CVs and good interview questions, and actually hiring the right person. So there's a lot of those kind of practical things. And then there's the management and the key performance indicators and the software and the systems to keep them accountable, like Trello and task management and Gantt charts. And there's all the practical. But then the mindset is trusting people with logins. Mark, for probably 3 or 4 years when we started Progressive, Mark wouldn't give anyone bank account details. It's never going to trust anyone. But now we have, payroll of, our payroll is a good few $100,000 a month. Mark can't go in and pay 96 staff. So we have to give staff access to the bank accounts. So, and, if you can give someone access to bank accounts, then, that's a pretty trusting thing. So what I've found a good thing to do is to just, one, I believe people think you have to earn trust. You got to earn my trust. I think it's the other way around. I think you give trust and then you get it back. Because, if I said to you, well, you've got to earn my trust, you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, you've got to earn mine. Whereas if I give you my trust by showing some faith in you, let's say you're my social media VA, and I say, here's my login, and I'm showing you some trust. Now that makes me vulnerable, because you could go in and private message a load of people and, go and hack my account, but I'm showing you trust. So I like to try my best to show people trust, but you de-risk it by, maybe you use a password software, which means that you can get a login, but you don't get my password. So you can get systems which help with that. Or, a lot of people who can access our bank account, they can access it, but they can only pay $5,000 or something like that, or they only get certain user preferences. You can have software to help you with that. But ultimately, I think the reasons people don't scale up is, one, they fear letting go. Two, they fear, they have trust issues. And by the way, trust issues manifest themselves to become your reality. Like if you have trust issues and you don't trust people, then they will never be who you want them to be. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you push your trust issues out on someone, then they'll become everything you don't want them to become. You'll turn them into the very thing you're scared of. So yeah, I think that they maybe worry about it taking extra time and then being overwhelmed already and they don't want more to do. I think quite a few people have the fundamental belief that managing people is shit and they don't like managing people and they don't want to manage people. So there's lots of different reasons why people don't scale up quicker. I just think everything's a test. I've always thought this, certainly for the last 15 years. So, if you want to do a bit of outsourcing and you're worried and you have trust issues, well, test. And by the way, you have to have one job and get two people to do it and test them against each other. You might think, oh, it's a waste of money getting one job done twice, but you'll be able to test them off against each other and see which one does the best job and the quickest job and the most efficient job. And you can start small. I could get someone to take a podcast and edit it for me. I could get someone to transcribe this, and I could get 3 different outsourcers on Fiverr.com, and they could all transcribe this, and we can see which one spells your surname most correctly, and we can see which one does a better job. And then I had a super fan 15 years ago, a super fan who pretty much stalked Mark and I. He won't mind me saying he's a legend, and I've got a great relationship with him now. He's been my full-time VA agent, outsourcer, legend, manager for 15 years now. But when he started, he was like, give me work, I want to help. Give me work, I want to help. And we were like, oh, mate, no. And in the end, we said, all right, look, I'll pay you £250 a month retainer, go do this, that, this, that. I mean, that was nothing. And he went and did loads of jobs and he did them better. And he made some mistakes, by the way. And he wrote in my voice, which wasn't really in my voice. And, but then we upped his money and got him to do more and more and more. And now, I got him an Audi TT, I got him a Rolex, and now he's brilliant. And he had the desire. He was a super fan. He wanted to, work with us. But I worked with him. I trained him over time. I was patient with him. I didn't lambast him. If he made a mistake, I just, helped him through it. I'm not the best man. Well, in fact, I'm a terrible manager. I'm a good outsourcer. Go fucking do this. I'm a terrible manager, which is, dealing with all their HR issues and, a good proper roadmap of what to do. So generally entrepreneurs are pretty bad managers. So you get managers in place to implement and to finish, and entrepreneurs who are often leaders, you get things started and, you have the ideas. But like I said, if you have to let go to grow, and that chaos goes away. And in the end, you just move that chaos onto a manager. So, my managers now have to deal with all the staff issues. Now, of course, it's my problem because it's my company.
Sure.
But I don't have to deal with that personally. So my problems are, global problems. They're big, new company problems and partnership problems and scaling problems and global reach problems. They're not individuals' emotional problems.
Right. This is really interesting. And so, Rob, now, if someone had outsourced, let's say you found a VAPA and they screwed up, and obviously something wrong happened to your business, for example, or to your name because of that person, then how people can start trusting again, if that makes sense. So you got the entrepreneur, they hire someone, the person did a really bad job, it actually affects their business. What would you say that they have to do again in order to trust again? Because that must be really hard. And they gave it a go, and then something happened.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it depends on your industry. Like if you're if you're a doctor and you mess up, that could be fatal. And so in some industries, I think a major mistake probably is gross misconduct, or they have to go. If you look at Alex Ferguson, how he dealt with player power, and if he ever got undermined, he sent them packing. I have a different view because a lot of the mistakes that my staff might make aren't fatal. So I think it depends on your industry and your view. But for me, I will accept mistakes as long as they are not fatal and as long as the goodwill behind the mistake was there. If there was some underhanded nature, I'll cut ties. But if a mistake was genuine, and actually, even if it was a bad mistake, but they were doing it the right way, I'll forgive it. So there have been loads of like there's a lot of things that you think I do that I don't do, that someone else does with me and for me, that you would perceive was my mistake. And in a way, if they came from the right place, then I'm going to give them feedback and I'm going to work through it. Like if someone took something on themselves and took a leadership role in it and made a mistake, I think that's a good thing. If someone brought an idea and I thought it was ridiculous, but they brought an idea, that's a good thing. You know, if something represented badly on my brand, but they were really busy and, you know, I've overloaded them with stuff, I've got to look at, you know, my responsibility in that part of the process. So I'm much more forgiving than I know a lot of people are. And I will accept mistakes because I accept imperfection. And we all make mistakes and I make mistakes. And so how do I let it go? Well, because, you know, especially right now, there's a lot of pretty horrific shit going on in the world. So if someone writes an email on my behalf and there's some spelling mistakes, or they send it out to the wrong person, or they schedule a Facebook post for me and there's something wrong with it or whatever. I mean, that's just small stuff. And I'm not really one for sweating small stuff. So I'm not saying this is right. It's just I've learned to be more forgiving and to not sweat the small stuff and let them go. Because ultimately, when people were trusting me and letting me lead, I would have made mistakes too. And some people that let me do that gave me some freedom to grow. And so I want to give other people the freedom to grow. That being said, I sometimes can stick my beak in and get involved in stuff that maybe I probably shouldn't. So I have to step well away. My staff know if I've told them to do something and then they come and ask me, oh, Rob, what do you think about this? They know I'm going to get back involved and they're not going to like my answer. So my MD always tells them, you either get Rob involved or you don't. If Rob says crack on and do it, and don't get him involved and don't check stuff with him because he'll find a load of shit you won't want him to find. I'm not very good at being in the middle. I'm good at being in or out. If I'm in, I generally just tend to grab the situation by the collar, a bit of a bulldozer sometimes in that regard. But if I'm fully out, I'm fully out. I don't really have trust issues. I'm the opposite. I trust people probably too much. And I let a lot of things go and I forgive quite easily. Of course, it depends on what they do and how bad it is. Other people with trust issues is probably going to be harder for them.
But obviously it works for you because, as you said, you have so many people on your team that obviously that there was probably times where people did make mistakes, etc., and it works for you. Like if you learn to let go, you learn to forgive, etc., take responsibility for it because they're still your people, so you hire them, etc. And it obviously works really well for you. So I think we all have to learn a lot from you on many topics, but this is obviously as this is the podcast today's episode, so yeah, definitely we need to all learn how to forgive more and trust people more. So that's brilliant. Thank you very much for this wonderful answer. So Rob, now I always ask people as well when I have them on my episode on my podcast is that if they have what books they have to recommend in regards to property or mindset. However, normally my guests are not authors as well, and you are the author of one of my favorite books, which we already mentioned. I have them on the Audible. I have some of them in the physical version. One of them you actually even signed for me. Do you remember? Like I have one book signed by you as well. So we do have fantastic books to recommend. But do you have anything outside of yours as well? Something would help you with a mindset when you were scaling, when you were growing?
Yeah, I think the book that probably had the most impact on me from a mindset perspective, because the thing with books is it's hard to say what's your favorite book. Like I'm listening at the moment to Curtis Jackson's book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. He's 50 Cent. And I'm getting a lot out of that. And that's a good book. I felt that Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography was one of the best books I ever read at the time. But books are about where you're at. So it's hard to say the single best book. Um, so you said mindset. And so in 2006, I think it was, I read, or maybe even at the end of 2005, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a seminal book, and that's quite common that people think that that book's really good. And that definitely awakened me to, a more abundant mindset from a mindset point of view, but also from a financial and a wealth point of view. So that probably had the biggest change impacting me, because that was my big change year, where before that I hadn't read any books and I wasn't into personal development and I didn't get the abundant mentality. So I'd probably say that one.
Nice. Thank you. Wonderful. And for those who like watching things, so what would you recommend? Do you have anything to recommend to watch for those who either on Netflix, Amazon, whatever? Do you have any favorite documentary or any favorite movie or anything like that? Something on the TV.
Yeah, so this one is the easiest answer you could ever ask me.
Really?
So 2 days before my 40th birthday, I watched the documentary called McQueen on Alexander McQueen.
Favorite one, yeah. After you told us about it before, I watched that straight away. Fantastic one. Yeah, sorry.
So this is McQueen. I wear a lot of McQueen clothes. And like, there's a lot of good documentaries out there. Senna, that's a brilliant documentary. I don't know why, but I really seem to like documentaries of tortured geniuses. I think often the more genius someone is, the more tortured they are in other areas of their life. I'm definitely not saying I'm a genius. I don't think that. But definitely in my entrepreneurial journey, I've had some personal, emotional stuff. It's not just been a straight, flat, easy ride. And I mean, McQueen was 40 when he hung himself. And it was on the evening of his mum's funeral. But I mean, when he was 19 years old, I think he became head of a really massive fashion house. It might have been Givenchy. It was a huge one. I think it was 19 or something like that. And then a second one in his early 20s. I mean, that is unheard of. And, he was very divisive in the, he would even say, look, I don't care if you love me or you hate me. I just want to make you feel something. His art had darkness in it. And I think to a certain degree, there is some darkness in my art, in that there is the human struggle in it, the loneliness, the feeling of not being important enough or valued, or sometimes feeling lost. I think this is, not uncommon with entrepreneurs. And all of that came through the McQueen documentary. And of course, I was 40. In 2 days, I was going to be 40 when I watched it. And, he hung himself on his 40th birthday. I love his fashion. I get VIP treatment, and they opened the shop for me a few days ago, and I went down. So I have a little thing about the fashion there. That documentary is so moving, so powerful. It's got the whole range of emotions, the ebbs, the flows, the highs, the lows. It's educational as well. And that really made me want to step up and make a bigger difference on this planet. So I mean, there's so many good documentaries, but that for me is by far the most impactful and powerful. It's not always an easy watch. You're not going to chuckle along and laugh along to it. But his work was art. And I believe that, your work is art and my work is art. And often great art comes from the struggle and a bit of the dark as well as the light. Jordan Peterson, who I interviewed on my podcast, The Disruptive Entrepreneur, he talks a lot about that the dark side of life. And when I've done personal development, I've kind of tried to everything's great, and try and sort of compart that into a corner of my mind, but it's there. And embracing it and even making it part of your art or your business, I think that's a great way to control that darkness. So McQueen, everyone should watch it.
Great. I definitely did. As I said, that after you made a post about it or video about it, when you watched it for the first time, I watched it as well straight away. So great recommendation. And as you said, it's a lot to do with a mindset. People, entrepreneurs can have. They have a lot of highs and lows and lonely times and pressure, etc., etc. So yeah, that documentary, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, that movie is definitely. Inspiring in many ways, and we have all a lot to learn as well from him. But don't you found it interesting that, as you said, that you also like his fashion? Isn't it interesting that he is the fashion guy, or he was the fashion guy, but he always just was wearing a jeans and a t-shirt himself. He never really was.
Yeah.
He never looked really fashionable as such. It wasn't that interesting as well. He kept it very simple. He was creating his art, but himself, he stayed just very simple, didn't he? You would think that
Yeah.
who is in the fashion
Quite
industry.
a few fashion designers are like that. You know, they're not all like Vivienne Westwood or Jean-Paul Gaultier, who are very extravagant. That's fairly common. I don't know if it was Helmut Lang or Dries Van Noten. I think it might be Dries Van Noten. Exactly the same. I've watched all the fashion documentaries that I can find. I thought the Valentino one was really good. He's an eccentric character. I think there's a lot of business lessons in fashion. And like I said, I think there's art in all business. And I think if you see, business and art as together, not separate, I think you're a better business person for it. Solving any business problem is creativity. Just like, designing something or creating a piece of art is also creativity. Creating a new online course that people want, that's creativity. So that was quite common. He's not the only one who is very. But then I think a lot of the times, they're just working, aren't they? So you see, they're not necessarily going out when you see them; they're just working. Interestingly, Curtis Jackson, he gives in his book, he gives the 4 elements of being a star. And one of them is the quality of your work or your lyrics. And one of them is your ability to perform. And one of them is your dress. And he says that if you have to dress a certain way if you want to be a star. Now, obviously, he's talking about rap music, but he's also talking about film, etc. I've always tried to dress a little bit differently. When we set up Progressive, we were wearing stripy shirts and tight-fitting Italian suits when everyone else was wearing grey Marks and Spencer suits and white shirts. I'm not knocking that, by the way, but I'm just saying that there you go. Yeah, let's have a look at that. Put that back up. Put that book back up, then. Yeah, there you go. And look, everyone knows that now about us, but that was quite disruptive back then. If 14 years ago or whatever. When I go on the stage and speak, I like to wear clothes that are divisive, that some people love and some people hate. And I didn't even know that was what star quality is until people start saying it. But I guess I just sensed that being different and being memorable and unique and discussion worthy is part of building a brand. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you're also being known as you have your style now, which when I see, I know that you have your disruptive entrepreneur T-shirt with your like the blazer, and you got the little vest on as well, isn't it? So that became your thing as well.
Yeah. Little things that people can say, that's Rob or that's Lenka. So this is a thing with McQueen, this strap thing that people think is either a back brace or a gun holster.
Yeah.
But that's a very McQueen thing. Like you said, the waistcoat, they're all Vivienne Westwood jackets, and they have the waistcoat stitched in. It's called dandified. And I just, all the ones I like, I buy. And I've got those waistcoat jackets. They're all Vivienne Westwood. So I suppose unconsciously, if I like something, I go all in on it. So if I like a Vivienne Westwood jacket, I'll buy them all. I bought all the styles of this polo shirt. I'm a bit of an obsessive person. So it was just me being me. But as it turns out, having that continuity of brand where I've got, like you said, I've got the disruptive t-shirts. I'm a bit more casual now because we're in the lockdown. And actually, with this setup, you can't see the brand on the t-shirt. But yeah, creating something a bit more memorable, a bit more you and a bit more unique. And it doesn't have to be rock star or bling, just can be you and different and memorable. It could be red shoes for ladies, or, you know, it could be anything, but it's just something that the way that you dress, it does make you memorable or not.
Absolutely. And also what I learned, I think that was one of the on one of the events at Progressive, when you were talking about how even someone like was it a Bill Gates you were talking about, that it's also very important to have, when you are a very, very busy person, having just having a few clothes to choose from keeps it simple as well. Wasn't it you? I'm sure you were
Steve
talking
Jobs.
as well. So it's
Yeah,
very,
Steve Jobs.
yeah, Steve Jobs. Yes, that's Steve
One of the reasons Steve Jobs wore all black and, you know, it was like jeans and a t-shirt,
Jobs.
was because to get rid of decision fatigue of having to stand in front of the wardrobe for 15 minutes deciding what to wear. My business partner, Mark Homer, he gets his wife to dress him and she just puts the clothes on the bed every day. And he loves it because he doesn't have to think about that. Whereas me, I could not have anyone dress me. I just couldn't. Although the guy that used to work at McQueen that used to get me all this stuff, he used to make out that he dresses me. Yeah, so I will sometimes spend 10 or 15 minutes thinking about what I'm going to wear today. And maybe I'm a bit sexual like that. I don't know. But yeah, look, if you're not bothered, like wearing all black all the time, that is also a brand. That is a statement about, because it's unique. And consistent. So it's the same thing. It's just not as showy, I suppose.
Of course. Yeah, that's what I actually accidentally started becoming me. I just noticed there was a period of time when I noticed that every single video, every single picture I made, every single post I made, I always wear black. So it just became, people started calling me a ninja. So I was just like, and it's just becoming a Lenka thing now, length thing as well. It is black. So obviously I'm not wearing black today on the top, but I got the black trousers. So it's like black is always part of me now. There were times where I was thinking, maybe I should zhuzh it up a little bit. Maybe I should add a little bit of color, etc. And occasionally, yeah, that's really nice. But as you said, once it's becoming you, once it's becoming your brand, I start feeling more comfortable about it because people knew that Lenk's wearing black. So yeah, it's definitely something in there. It's a part of the brand as well, isn't it? The way how you dress as well. Amazing, right? So Rob, it's 5:24, and I was told by your PA that I have a 1 hour with you. So I think we're gonna have to start wrapping it up, unfortunately, unfortunately for everybody, because but because obviously it's you always have amazing things to say, but you make a lot of different videos all the time. So whoever wants to know more from you, just have to go on your page. Rob, now I just have one more question. So I asked a few people if they would have opportunity to ask Rob something, what would they ask? And the most common question was, so I'll just quickly ask you that. The one that came up the most was that, Rob, if you could start again with the knowledge you have right now, what would you do differently? If you can just answer, that would be amazing, please.
I would definitely outsource more. I would let go of the need to control everything, and I would try and get out of the mentality of pure hustle and hard work as your only resource and asset. Try and get more people involved in helping me, ask for help more, try and figure out this whole outsourcing thing and find a few outsourcers. I would say that would be the main thing if I was starting again, because I think Mark and I, we kept costs down and we worked hard, definitely. But we've probably got in our own way a bit by being a little bit stubborn and just a little bit too focused on the work we were doing rather than building that team a little bit quicker. So I'd probably do that differently. Other than that, I've had a pretty good ride. We've done well and I've had fun along the way, and I've had the variety that I wanted, and we made a difference to a lot of people, and we did grow quite quickly because we were only in our mid-20s when we started. So I don't really have any regrets, and I wouldn't really want to change much, other than I think we could be a bit bigger if we'd have embraced that leverage and that outsourcing, and we'd have asked for more help, and we'd have used a bit more. There's graft and there's craft. Mm-hmm. So graft is the hard work, but craft is the smart work. And we weren't really in smart work mode for probably 2 or 3 years. So don't let graft get in the way of craft.
Wow, nice. I can't believe what a coincidence that, because the question for the episode today, I chose it myself, but the one I just asked you was chosen by others. And isn't it interesting that I actually chose a question which your answer was the topic of today's episode? So that's brilliant. I'm glad I asked this question. So that's the answer, people. Leverage and outsource more and sooner, as soon as you can, if you want to grow. Amazing. Right, Rob, I every single of my guests on the show also do a little dance. So you have to just imagine a little bit of music in your head. Sorry, there's no music right now. I'll add music later. But
I'm not doing a fucking
yeah, you
dance.
well, you
Come
have
on.
to. It's a tradition.
I'm not your performing monkey, by the way.
It's a tradition. Just a little bit, just a little dance. I'm gonna add you to a store. No. Come on, Rob.
Oh my life! I'd have charged you. I should have charged you for this. You know, I'm charging for podcasts now. You're probably one of the last remaining people who are going to get me for free. I'm charging just because of how many I'm doing on my time. And so you got this for free, and you want me to do a dance?
Little dance.
I can't dance.
It's just a little bonus. There we go. Fantastic. There we go. Nice.
That's all you're getting.
So if you're on the dance floor, what would you do?
You just recorded that, didn't you? You just recorded that.
Just a little, yes.
Yeah, great. Whoa.
I got your dance. I swear, I thought you're gonna do this.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you're gonna do. Wonderful. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Rob, coming on the show.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate that, and as you said as well, that you are very, very busy, and and as you said, you're gonna start charging people to come and podcast. So I really appreciate it. I feel honored that you said yes and you came today on my show.
My pleasure. So just shout out everyone, remind everyone what's the name of your podcast?
How Did You? It's a talk. How Did You? A talk show for pretty beginners. Okay,
and my podcast is called The Disruptive Entrepreneur, which I guess most of you know, but hey, that's what it is.
Fantastic. Right. So I will wrap it up here. Thank you very much again, and have a fantastic day.
You too. Take care.
Rob, you're absolute legend. Thanks so much for absolutely everything you do all the time. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
How do you pronounce your surname?
Jenčová Bednaríková.
No way. No way. I'm sorry, there's no way.
Give it a go, try, I want to hear that.
Say it again.
Jenčová Bednaríková.
Say that again, one more time.
Jenčová Bednaríková.
Now, the host of this podcast, her first name is Lenka. You have to bear with me one sec. Lenka, say your surname again, and I'm going to try and do this.
Right, I'm looking forward to this. Jenčová Bednaríková.
Yeah. Say it again.
Jenčová Bednaríková.
Jenčová Bednaríková.
Way! You nailed it!
Lenka is her name.